Welcome to the podcast. This time it's all about Traquair House here in Scotland. More specifically, of course, their famous antique brewery. Traquair House dates back to 1107 and is the oldest inhabited house in Scotland. I went down to visit it with Johnny Horn, who recently recorded a podcast with me about the history of brewing. We were both excited to see the old brewery, of course, and felt especially lucky to be given a tour by Catherine Maxwell Stewart, the 21st Lady of Traquair. Lady Catherine could not have been a better host. First she showed us around the ancient part of the brewery, then the slightly more modern part, we stuck our head in that as well, and then she took us to the little brewery museum they have at the house, and we even got a wee sample or two. Lady Catherine is a brewing enthusiast like us, and I think this really comes out in her tour. I can't thank her enough for taking the time with us, so over to Lady Catherine.
Yes.
You're at the thick of it now. I mean, you must...
Well, we're like the pioneer, you see. I think we're kind of like... we were like the... Because we had a... what's he called? This guy came, who's a quite well-known beer writer, and he was writing this sort of world book of beer, and I was going, well, where would you fit Traquair, like, in the craft beer movement? He said, well, you're like the grandfathers. You're sort of before craft beer even kind of existed, really.
Oh, really? I mean,
yeah.
Pre-craft.
We were pre-craft, yeah, and it was... You know, I suppose...
Sounds like Michael Jackson, maybe?
Yeah, well, Michael Jackson, we were written up by Michael Jackson first, yeah. So what was he called? Tim Wheeler? Is it Tim Wheeler? Anyway, he was a kind of that... He was from that generation of beer writers as well, and he's just done an updated World Guide to Beer, so... it was... That was his thoughts, and I thought, well, that's quite good. Yes, I think I can. I think I agree with that.
Yeah, I've been wondering about all these old breweries that, you know, with the camera, before camera came along, probably thought that they were about to die, and then all of a sudden, are we cool now?
No, absolutely. Yeah, it was, and it was very much like that at Traquair, because when my dad started it, he started 65, and nobody really wanted to buy the beer then. I mean, it was like he was selling it for 3 shillings a bottle, and. You know, it was hard to sell, and we just sold it through the shop. And then it really wasn't until camera came along in the 70s that people began to even appreciate it. And then we used to get busloads of camera addicts here, and then and that really did sort of develop it and pioneered it, and people talked about it. Although camera were a bit sniffy about us because we were pasteurised in the bottom.
Oh,
it's very Puritan. They don't like pasteurisation.
Right.
They felt everything should be bottle conditioned.
All right.
So we were never totally in with camera, but
they won't be able to deny your pedigree. So
no.
They would have arced them, but they had to.
Yeah. It's just that camera failed to kind of make beer trendy, so they made it sort of a bit anarchy. So I think it took the sort of craft beer thing to come along to make, you know, to really broaden the appeal, which is amazing. Now it's like, you know, it's a young and trendy thing to do. Drink craft beer now. It's great.
I know.
As soon as people start drinking beer, then they do drink our beer. You know, they're more willing to try our beer as well.
I mean, it packs quite a punch.
It does.
Most of your beers, so it's probably not for the uninitiated.
No, absolutely.
You've got quite a good market in America as well.
Yeah. No, we sell about a quarter of all our entire production goes to the States. It's better known in a way, or it's better appreciated, I would say, amongst kind of connoisseur beer drinkers. They're very kind of take it religiously, really. It's very sought after.
Yeah.
Very expensive, and but you know, people know they know it, and they kind of acknowledge its iconic status.
Quite right.
And they all try to emulate it, which is hilarious, because they have this style they call Scotch ale, and they all try to make Scotch ale, and we're like the Scotch ale, actually some pretty nasty stuff.
Have you been made to try it?
I've been to beer festivals there, and it's quite interesting, their interpretations of Scotch ale.
Yeah, you'd be like royalty there, wouldn't you?
It's like that. I mean, it's fantastic. And then there's a guy called David Geary, who is a really kind of respected craft brewer, who got a brewery in Chicago, and he came over for about 3 months and helped my dad in the sort of the early 80s, I think it was, when he was just starting out brewing. And so he sort of sometimes talks about Traquair, and of course that just increases our fame. Sort of David Gearing thinks that. So yeah,
you just need to drink it. It's good stuff. I did
exactly.
my research again last night, just to make sure that. So I had a bottle of the Jacobean ale, which just blows your socks off every time. It's so good. Yeah. And I tried the Traquair ale as well. Lovely.
Yeah. Great. Well,
shall we have a look in?
So this is the old. Yeah, so this is, you see, this was originally a coach house, and then it sort of turned into a brewery in the sort of early 1700s.
Uh-huh.
And so we still have the account for the purchase of the copper, which was in 1710, and so we think they were using this up until the 1800s, and then when duty came in, it was no longer sort of worth brewing anymore, so they just left it here, and it became used as the family junk room. And so they basically just piled it up with old bottles and furniture, and they forgot that there was a brewery here at all. And then it was rediscovered by my father in '64, and he started cleaning out all these old outhouses because they were just opening the house to the public. And so I thought, this looks quite interesting. And then my uncle was there at the time, and he was quite entrepreneurial. And he said, it's a brewery. Must try brewing again. Let's do it. So they got together. He got together with Sandy Hunter, who was at Belhaven Brewery. And he came up, so between them they concocted the recipe for Traquair House Ale, which was based on a traditional Scottish ale, like a wee heavy, which they thought was the kind of beer that would have been brewed here. And that's the beer that, that's the house ale we've been brewing essentially ever since. And then we added the Jacobite in 95. And then we've got the Bear Ale as well, which was a draft ale that was bottled in 97. And then we do these sort of occasional specials as well from time to time.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So do you still use these coolers?
Occasionally, yeah. So what happened is, so we were brewing basically totally here. So the fermenters are all next door. So they we're still using those all the time. It's one of our unique selling points. It's really the only brewery left in Britain that is fermenting totally in oak. And so we were brewing here really up till the mid 90s, and then we expanded through the hole in the wall. There is a new microbrewery there, so that doubled our production. So this brewery we use very occasionally now, maybe once or twice a year, and most of the production goes through the new brewery, and it all comes through the hole in the wall, and it's all fermented in the tons, which is the sort of secret to the flavour, I think, is the oak. So that's what we do now.
Wow, it's quite a setup, isn't it?
Yeah.
So all the beers you make still goes into these?
Yeah. Every pint goes through those vessels.
They're hard-working vessels. They produce a lot of beer.
Yeah.
They really do.
They're quite old vessels, I take it.
They're very, well, some of them are older than others, actually. I think that one in the left-hand one is pretty old here. One is from the 90s, because they were originally made with Russian Memel oak, and then when we needed to produce a new one, it was really hard because there was no oak like that, so we ended up with Canadian oak. Yes, we had a new one made, but it's, essentially, after a year or two, it seems to be. I think it's the oak. It's only in there for 5 days, so it's not like, your innocent gun where it's sort of in cask for however long we keep it in there. But so it's going through fairly quickly, but because of the fermentation in there, I think that's obviously what gives it this sort of quite complex flavour. And then we say the other thing is really the waters are all from a private source spring supply, so it's got a pretty sort of unique water. And then we use very old-fashioned East Kent Golding hops. And that's the 3 special ingredients.
5 days fermentation is quite short, isn't it?
No, that's quite lengthy, really. Yeah, because we it's I would say that your average would probably maybe a couple of days, because it's fermented in there, and then it's basically transferred into conditioning tanks for about 6 weeks.
Right.
So it's settling for, it reaches its, so we put the yeast in, so it's left for about 3 to 5 days, and then we transfer it, and it's conditioned for up to about 6 weeks, and then we basically accumulate enough for 50 barrels, which takes about that length of time, and then it's all transferred into a tanker, and then we ship down to Robinson's, which is in Stockport, and they weirdly is the cheapest place to bottle our beer, and then it's bottled there,
right?
And it comes either back here or it goes straight out.
And they distribute it as
well. They don't distribute it. We do all our own distribution.
All right.
Yeah. So, but a lot of quite a substantial amount goes out to the States. So that goes out with Sam Smith's from Tadcaster. So generally, part goes up there, and part comes straight back here, and then it goes out directly from us.
Do you think that the fermenters are the main thing that makes your beer taste so different from other people's?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly it's a combination of the wood and also the water, and probably just, I think those are probably the 2 most important things, and the way it's just aged, and it's very, it's really handmade. It's just like a homebrew. It's not, there's no additions, no additives, nothing. It's very, very straightforward, very simple, but
do you keep your own yeast in-house, effectively, or do you?
No, we buy in dried yeast now.
Okay, yeah.
In earlier days, we used to go and collect it from S&N in Edinburgh. We used to go and get their yeast off their ale yeast, which quite a few brewers did. And then, of course, after their demise, we were a bit worried. And we don't really have we're not running the production, and we don't have a lab. We don't have anywhere to make yeast. So we did for a while get it from Broughton Brewery, which is 20 miles from us, and then when that was no longer possible, we thought, we'll just try the dried yeast, and actually it's really good. It's very effective. So that's what we use now.
Yeah.
You'd be consistent too.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any problems when you're using the coolers in terms of infection? And I guess is that why you pasteurise your bottles?
Yeah, I mean originally that was always a big worry, and particularly with the amount of wood involved and the fact they're open coolers. They were, it was, the quality control was always like, ooh, everyone was scared about it. Actually, we've had remarkably few problems. I mean, in the last 10 years, I don't think we've probably ever had a brew that has gone off. I mean, in the very early days, my dad used to have a bit of wild yeast that used to get in occasionally, and then it was like disaster. But then he basically bought this weird-looking cooler from a dairy in the 19th. It was a 19th century dairy cooler. So basically, the beer runs through, and cold water runs down the side, but it circulates. So it's less going through, it's less standing out in vessels. And that seemed to basically speed up the brewing process by about 4 hours.
Oh, really?
Early brews in this brew house started at 8 in the morning and finished at about 12 at night. I mean, it was a really long process. And then to compound it, we used to have to wait for the customs guy, who was some bloke who used to have to come out, wait till we'd got to the OG required, take the gravity before he left. So sometimes he was here till midnight, waiting for us to finish the brew.
Make yourself comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes helping.
So how long did you have to leave it in the coolers before you had this?
Well, you see, it all depended on the outside temperature, because I mean, the way it was cooled in open vessels, so it runs off from the copper here, so it ran via this wooden funnel into the open coolers, and then we have these. We've still got them upstairs, actually. These paddles. These were 18th century paddles with sort of slotted. They're almost like slotted spoons. And the traditional way of cooling was you just stood. We used to stand on ladders. I'm saying me because I did this at the age of about 12. and my father were there sort of basically sifting the beer, and that was the only way to cool it. So in the winter it was much quicker. In August you couldn't brew at all, it was too warm outside. So it was completely dependent on the outside temperature.
Were these coolers always unlighted, just wood in contact with beer?
Yeah. Again, unusual and again risky.
It's like in Belgium, you've got similar cool ships, copper, for cooling the beer. And I guess just thinking about how you used to have a little bit of trouble with infections because you're using so much wood in these open coolers. And if they were producing beer here back in the 1800s, they would have had the same problems. Or if they'd seen it as a problem, it depends how they dealt with it. What they expected the beer to taste like, I guess.
And I wonder whether, because that was another reason why we always went for the much stronger beers.
Yeah.
Because of that, and it was always considered, we can't possibly, attempt to brew anything that was going to be sort of under about 5%. But I have to say, now that we're using this new brewery more, the actual wooden fermenters, there doesn't seem to be a problem as long as they're kept totally clean. We don't use any chemicals on the fermenters, but as long as they're sterilised properly, we don't seem to have any problem. So we're now brewing at sort of 4% quite happily. We do a draft ales that are slightly under 4 sometimes. So it's, we seem to have got on top of the yeast problem.
Do you have any old recipes left over? I mean, I know they discovered all this beautiful brewery equipment. Did you do some research and discover what they actually used the equipment for and how they used it?
Funnily enough, there really were very few recipes. I mean, we did find the Jacobite ale was actually based on an 18th century recipe, which they did use coriander quite frequently. It's one of the Belgian sort of more white beers have coriander in them, but I've never seen another dark beer with coriander, which is why we decided we might just try and adapt that one. So we have got this great book, a couple of books in our library, one which is beer recipes from the 1600s.
Wow.
Which includes one called a cock ale, where you put a live cock into the sort of fermentation.
The aid fermentation.
They say something about flaying it and then breaking all its bones.
Yeah.
It sounds really you don't know if someone's having a joke or not.
No. And then, of course,
a red herring for someone.
There was a heather ale recipe, which we thought, that sounds quite interesting, and just missed that one. Just when Freya went there.
Your brothers just do it.
So there's quite a few up there which would be fun to try. And I always quite fancied trying to make a real IPA, because the old IPAs were meant to be so stable they would stay in cask till they got to India. So a really matured IPA might be quite interesting. So the answer is really that there weren't an awful lot of original recipes, and the way that beer seems to feature in our archives is as wages for servants. So you can see that they were actually, because this is quite a large brewery for a private brewery, and they were certainly paying servants' wages partly in beer. There was a lot of beer going out.
Yes. I suppose it was nutritious.
And the other thing I can't work out is whether apparently they grew hops in the 18th century in Scotland. But I don't know whether the hops were local then or not. I've never worked that one out. Didn't know if you knew about hops at that time.
I don't know if Scotland was a centre of hop growing, and I can't imagine there would be a huge amount of hops.
No.
From what I've heard, they're probably getting them from the south of England for the most part. I don't know. I know it was sort of warm enough to. I know they were growing them in Scotland, but how big the production was. And then of course, I don't know, because they would have been brewing originally small beer here without hops at all, so I don't quite know when that took place.
That's the interesting thing. When did the hops
start being used? We don't really know the exact date.
I have hops in my garden, and the common knowledge is that you can grow hops anywhere, but it's not commercially viable outside particular kind of climate zones. Mild but warm with enough moisture, because they need a lot of water. So they could have grown hops here. I mean, they have big grounds here, I'm sure.
We do have a nice hop vine now, but quite enough to put in our beer.
Well, not now, but maybe back in the day.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Is that an old vine, dog vine?
No, that's one that we experimented with about 20 years ago to see how well it would grow. And it did grow well here, so yeah, it's quite possible.
You must have had a lot of fun just trying to piece it together, how it would have worked, and your father and your uncle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I think great fun, and I think the attraction of brewing in a lot of ways is the simplicity of the process. There's really nothing terribly complicated about it as it stands, although obviously it takes years to actually be able to feel it, and actually here it does take a long time in order to get the process right and to work out the idiosyncrasies of the brewery, which are many and varied,
of course.
Which is different from brewing in a new brewery. So we've always found that our brewers, Ian Cameron, who was our head brewer for sort of over 30 years, he's just retired, but so Frank, who has been here a mere 25 years, has just taken on the role of head brewer. And we've taken on a trainee, and Frank will say, it'll be 5 years before he really knows what he's doing at the brewery here. Maybe that's a little exaggerated.
He doesn't undersell his skills.
Exactly.
Trying to manage your expectations.
Yeah, but I think certainly, it's amazing how you do have to feel it here and know, and because it's quite weather induced outside, how all the brewery gets inside, and sometimes because stronger beers can just tend to explode when they're fermenting as well.
Yes,
so. You can get lots of problems.
Can you store the beer here? I don't know, you said you've got conditioning tanks, but can you store it in the cellar or something?
No, we have, so we've got these, conditioning tanks, we've just actually managed to increase our capacity somewhat by getting an extra couple in, and then we can store about we store a quantity of bottled beer on site, but not a huge amount, so we're trying to basically get everything out as soon as it comes in.
Right.
So we just focus on into sort of warehousing because it's adds to the cost.
Yes, so let other people do it.
Although despite the fact we do have a 10-year shelf life, so that's no reason why it can't be stored for a long time.
Have you got an interest in experimenting with different recipes yourself? Is that something that, do you get involved hands-on? Or?
Yeah, no, absolutely, yes. So we've done various, we've always had this tradition of doing specials, and the specials have tended to be 9% or 10% beers, so we've always gone much stronger. That's where I think our sort of unique selling point probably is in the stronger beer category. Our brewer now is quite keen to look at some of the less, the sort of weaker beers. Because again, I think even with the sort of the lighter beers, the oak will come through a bit, and they are nice. What really just holds us back is our capacity issues. So for the last sort of 5 years, we've had such a strong demand. We've just literally been brewing to keep up. So we brew a stronger beer that probably takes about 2 or 3 weeks longer in terms of fermentation and production time. So, we tend to only be able to do that once or 2 or 3 years. So,
how about a small beer? Do you think there's
small beer?
I
don't know what people's taste would be for a small beer. They're not sort of sought after. I don't know if anyone's doing a small beer. Are there small beers around?
The odd sort of low ABV milds doing the rounds, and it's not something that immediately grabs people's attention. But I think if you were to emphasise the history of the style, then I think it probably would do more.
If anyone can do it, it would be
Exactly.
at your ale festival.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Could you give a quick run through of the brew
process?
Process,
absolutely. So the brewing beer starts over here in the mashing in tun, which is in the corner there. So essentially, it's a great porridge mix. That pump originally was a pump that drew water from an outside spring. So it's what they call sparge. So the barley is sparged, sprinkled with hot water, mixed. We've got these lovely old wooden stirrers, so it's stirred around. and then the wort drips down from the mash tun into the underback, where it's strained below. Then from the underbank, it's pumped up into the copper, and you can see the copper was originally wood-fired, and now it's gas-fired, and it's here is then boiled for about 2 hours, and then we add the hops at that time, and then runs from the copper into the coolers. It's strained again at that period. And then I would say the cooling can be this lengthy process aided by this wonderful copper 19th century dairy cooler, speeding up the process. And once it's reached the required temperature, it's transferred by these pipe pump again. Originally, I imagine they were just hand ladling the beer from the coolers next door into the fermenters. And it stays in the fermenters for like 5 days.
Because that's another question. Before, if you didn't have a pump there, how would you transfer the liquid back to the...
Yeah, no, I know. Again, I think that... who knows? I mean, it may well just be a hand process.
Because I've been doing a little bit of research into the subject, and it seems like a lot of beers that produced, especially a couple pre-industrial period, they weren't boiling. So it might be that they weren't at all.
Oh, okay.
But then I'm still trying to work out how exactly the system would have worked if you were sort of mashing into your copper. If you're using that as your water heating and then mashing into a separate vessel, which would just go straight into the coolers afterwards. Just thinking about sort of how that would work.
Yes, how they transferred. That was always as is. So you were always trying to get from that underback up into the copper somehow. So how they did that, I'm not entirely sure.
I mean, you could use a pump sort of an old school pressure pump.
But it's a distance, isn't it?
It is, and what are the filters?
So the filters were basically just a sieve, almost like now we use a metal sieve. That just strains out the sediment.
Because I've heard talk of some very old Scottish breweries having a sort of horsehair filter.
Well, that potentially was, but I mean that's a sort of that is what we use now. And we did have to line the underback in the end.
Why was that?
That was just really partly because when we started to use it less frequently, then we had problems with vessels and leakage and all that sort of thing. Yes, that's really good.
It's beautiful. This is something that Johnny's been interested in, the filters and the material used in these things.
I'm just trying to understand how these processes would have been carried out before you had, before you could make sieves as well as we can now.
No, that's right, exactly.
When you're using natural materials. So we've got some very old breweries that, the system just doesn't, it needs a few pieces just to work out what's going on and how they were sort of, extracting, separating all the malt from the liquor and whatnot. And just interesting to see, because this is so reminiscent of another brewery I've seen called, I think it's Laycock Abbey. It's down in south of England, and it's one of, I think it's probably one of the oldest breweries still intact.
They're not using it?
They have only used it once or twice recently, just for sort of historic sort of experiments. But that doesn't have. It's got a very similar system. It's got the copper and then a mash tun which leads directly into the cooling, like open cooler, and wooden built as well, and then nothing else. So there's not really, don't really see how they could have boiled their wort in that instance. And that's their interpretation as well that they give in the sort of the plaque board there. So it's interesting to see how much similarity there is here. And was this room used as the breweries in since the brewery was set up?
No, you see, this was originally a coach house. So I think this was the coach house, and then next door it was a stable block essentially. But this block, the wing here was added in 1694, But as I say, we've got the receipt for the copper. It was bought in 1738.
Yeah.
So we know they were brewing by then. So, maybe not used as a coach house for terribly long, because then there was coach houses and stables that were built. Certainly, we know that they were constructed around the 1740s. So I ran about the 1720s, I think, probably 1720, 1730. It was obviously moved. The brewery was moved in because they would have then been brewing in the house and the kitchens, presumably.
Of course.
Yeah.
Do you think the layout of the room would have influenced the setup here? Is that why you're asking? Is that like a? Is it purposeful?
Or in terms of just how everything came to be in this room, and because the coolers obviously going to have trouble fitting them through the door, and the copper as well. But
and maybe because of the water supply as well. They obviously worked out they were getting there. Because there's a well, there is wells here. Outside the brewery, the River Tweed used to run right at the back of the house. And we don't know exactly when it was moved, but we know that they thought that it was ruining the foundations of the house, so they physically moved the Tweed about 200 yards further away.
You do.
Yes. I don't know how they did that. I mean, again, there's no records of how that was done. But so this pond that is left there now, it does have a couple of springs in it. And I know there were wells in the house, in this end of the house, so presumably they'd worked out that there was a spring around here, so that might have all influenced. Yeah.
The drains would have been helpful.
Yeah.
So was there any sort of leftover brewing implements that go back further than this?
Further than this? No, I don't think further than this. I mean, everything that was found in this brew house. But I don't think it's amazing that there was brewing implements from then. The stirrers and everything were fantastic.
And you wouldn't necessarily know how long they'd been here before they were decommissioned. So.
No, we should. We'll go upstairs to the brewery shop and the museum bit, which we've got all the implements there, so you can have a look.
That'd be great.
And taste the beer, maybe.
Oh yes.
Just gonna take a couple more pictures once.
Okay. You get a lot of beer nerds.
We do, we do. Yeah, in fact, a lot. You get Americans who can't quite actually believe that. I know that they're looking at me going, "No, where is it? It's all under contract somewhere, isn't it?" I'm like, "No, it's not. It's here."
Yeah. I mean, it is astonishing, isn't it?
I know. I think it's pretty amazing if you're, drinking it in, Boston or somewhere, and you suddenly see where it came from. It is quite unbelievable that it all comes out of 2 rooms.
Yes. So your more modern part's in there.
Yeah. I think we were the first, granted the first domestic brewing licence. There was there was quite a lot of difficulty getting it originally. My father had considerable trouble trying to convince the licensing board to give him a brewing licence.
Could we have a quick look?
Yes, have a look at that. Yeah, absolutely. Ross? Hi, Ross. I've just got 2
Brewing nerds.
brewing nerds here.
Brewing nerds. Can I take some pictures of the new stuff? Thank you. This is where the magic happens.
So these are the conditioning tanks here.
All right.
It's nice and cold in here, you see. And then that's the microbrewery in here.
There's floors there.
This is the summer clean out. So we're not brewing a couple of weeks.
Floors must be a bit of a nightmare.
Doing all the cleaning.
Some here and that's all to get cleaned up.
So all the malt is stored now back in the original malt block. That was the original malt block up there. The malt hilariously has this sort of, we've got an old agricultural conveyor belt where the malt drives in the sacks. It's a job and a half getting it up there.
Of course. Of course.
So his back goes.
Yeah.
So it's literally, it's very awkward and it's all stored up there and then it comes down. So this is the new mash tun and then it's fired straight into the mash tun.
Just drops right in like a giant hopper.
Yeah. And you can see it's not pretty sort of space. It's squeezed in.
your rosettes.
Yeah, you see, I haven't had, this is where I kept the ponies when I was little. I was furious when my dad ever suggested moving into the grass. No, we can't possibly move into the stable.
I see he didn't listen to you.
Well, no, it was me. Of course, it was, he never did. After he died, sort of mid-90s.
Oh, right, you did it?
I did it, yeah.
Oh, okay, of course.
Yeah. Actually, you see, he was brewing more or less on his own for about 20-odd years, and then he got an assistant in. He did a lot of early brewing. It was all done with his own fair hand.
Those are beautiful conditioning tanks as well. They look like old ones that have been extended a bit.
They are, because actually it took a long time to find them. They're not easy to get.
No.
To get them in that width. I mean, they're really well lit.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It really is.
What's the current output of the brewery in terms of?
It's about 1,000 hectolitres a year.
Yeah.
So it equates to about 250,000 bottles. And we do very little draft. We just do draft for beer festivals. We supply the local pub, firearms, occasional guest ales, and a couple of pubs in Edinburgh. But again, having just even got these extra conditioning tanks, we're able to we might increase our draft ale a little bit.
Yeah.
Stunning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. So there's the River Tweed, right outside. So that's a beautiful brewery as well, and you see it's a modern bit, but it looks amazing and historic in its own right.
Sarah?
And so you have a little museum with the brewing.
Brewery shop museum.
And laundry.
And laundry.
Yeah.
Well, this was the original large malt. This was the malt loft.
Oh, right. Okay. Hey.
All right. And so Johnny.
Yeah.
Beer nerds.
Beer nerds.
Beer podcast.
We're here to geek out completely, and she's indulging us, which is very good of her.
We've got some old. Yes, these are that's the old cooling paddleware that I was telling you about. And
so that's what you used when you were 12, was it?
Yeah, yes, I remember that. And then that's one of the old stirrers for the mash. And then these are two of the original fermenting vessels that really did give up the ghost.
Were they splitting or?
Yeah, they were just. Yeah, they were. The wood was beginning to disintegrate.
Mm-hmm. It's had a hard life.
Had a hard, tough life. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are those original bottles there then?
So these were some of the bottles that were found in the brewhouse when they cleared it out.
Oh, look at that! That's amazing.
Whether they were beer bottles or not, I don't know. Probably not. But these were all found in the brewhouse.
When your father cleared it out? Uh-huh.
Yeah, so he originally... But I mean, as you can see, it was just exactly... This is exactly part of the stairs. And then there's these amazing old bellows, which they are in need of a bit of restoration. And then my dad used to drive everybody mad by the first job that he always got was labelling the beer, so he managed to acquire this ancient labelling device.
Oh wow!
Just like a sort of Keith Robinson.
Yes.
Sort of, there's a friend of mine he describes, like it was like things just slap on and the glue would go off this way and the label would still swearing at this machine.
It looks like it could break a few bottles as well if you weren't careful.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's slightly intimidating.
The early ones were all individually numbered, so my father numbered each bottle for the first 5 or 6 years, and then as production increased a bit, he started to run out. So he then stopped numbering individual bottles, and you just got the brew number, and then that kind of fell by the wayside. And then you've got lot numbering anyway. So he used to sort of see how he'd be sitting there every night making his numbers.
And they're going for a lot of money.
And they're collector's items. They are collector's items. In fact, we were selling them to Japan for a while, £25 a bottle. This little sort of rash of these, you know. And then my stocks ran so low, I said, no, you can't have any more.
So you've got a cellar sitting
So we've got case virtually from all the early brews, and then we keep all the specials as well. So then we got onto things like the 100th brew, 250th. And then, of course, there was Catherine's 21st, my birthday brew.
All right.
And there was a silver wedding one somewhere, American Scots one. And then the more recent ones we've done the 1000th brew. I think that was when was that? That was in the early 2000s.
You just make up a recipe for that, and specific to that
but
event.
They tend to be, like I was saying, sort of 9%ish.
Yeah, barley wine.
10%. We did the 2010, which was 10%, which actually was extremely nice. The Blair's Brew, 97.
Cool Britannia. Has that signed it?
Yeah, he launched it. We got it.
Did he?
Yeah, he came up when he came up to Edinburgh. It was a favours occasion, and he pulled a pint. We got on news at 10.
Oh, very good.
Did you used to have a cooper in-house?
I think there would have been probably
All the
at some point.
tools.
There's a lot of coopering tools, and then we've got these early chronometers and things. It's really interesting.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Was that when customs and excise got involved in? And
Yeah, well,
possibly.
customs weren't there till sort of the 1800s.
Uh-huh.
So really, more or less, as soon as the duty was introduced, all the domestic breweries seemed to just go by the wayside. And then at the same time, I suppose you'd had all the commercial breweries were starting as well. So.
Yeah. Yes, that changed everything.
Yeah, it
I
just
suppose.
changed everything really swiftly. And they were not only taxing, I mean, it wasn't just duty for beer, but it was taxes going up left, right and centre for just about everything you can think of.
Yes.
Like suddenly taxes for wine, for windows, for everything.
You need to fill their coffers.
Yeah.
Probably some war efforts.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Fine,
That was
pleasure.
really good of you. And
Pleasure. Well, nice to meet you.
I'm going to have to buy a T-shirt.
Okay, I'll leave you to it.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.